Let's talk politics, and for that we turn to CBS News contributor and New York Times Magazine chief national correspondent Mark Leibovich. He's in our Washington bureau. Mark, good morning.
Hi, Anthony.
Let's talk about the request for the resignation of these federal prosecutors, first 46. How unusual is this move?
Well, I mean, the move itself is not unusual. I mean, it is fairly customary for new administrations, especially when there's a new president, to come in and actually ask for the resignations of all the U.S. attorneys. Usually, though, it happens in a much more, shall we say, orderly process. It tends to be staggered over several months. And there were a lot of mixed messages, coming in about how this would go on, when it would go on, and what would happen with continuing investigations. Then all of a sudden, suddenly, to the surprise of everyone that really had been paying attention, we have this sort of sweeping order to have the resignations come in for all U.S. attorneys. So it does obviously create a lot of confusion, a lot of questions about what the ongoing investigations are. And so, I mean, I think people were taken aback by the suddenness of it.
Adding to a bit of this chaos, Mark, let's talk a little bit about healthcare latest. The president thus far has adopted sort of a good cop posture, which is incentivizing reluctant members through White House dinners, bowling dates, et cetera, to get on board with this healthcare plan. How long is it before we see the president take a more punitive stance, if you will, as far as reluctant members who don't want to sign on to this bill?
Well, I mean, I think, again, it's sort of, you don't really know what tools are in his toolbox as far as, what kind of power he has to sort of enact some kind of punishment, whether it's threatening to campaign against members or to actually not invite them to the White House and so forth. I mean, Donald Trump is a salesman. There's no question about it. He can put a very, very happy and excited and optimistic face on something like this. But he also has never been known as a wonk. He's not going to really dive into the details of this. And I think at some point, the details of Medicaid expansion, things like that affect people's lives in the states that people are operating in, is not going to be made up for by, a bowling date in the White House. So it's, again, we'll sort of see how this evolves.
On March 20th, Mark, the House Intelligence Panel is set to hold its first public hearing on Russian meddling in the 2016 election. James Comey, the FBI director, has been invited to testify. Well, what can we expect in this hearing, do you think?
I mean, the hearing, as far as Comey's role in this, it keeps getting more and more interesting. Obviously, he was a central figure in the election. Many people in the Clinton campaign, if not blame him for the defeat, certainly thinks that his decision to come public with a few, days left before the election on Hillary Clinton being the reopening of the investigation is a deciding factor. I mean, he obviously right now is a bit of trying to be an honest broker. I mean, he has these big allegations. I mean, testimony in a case like this is very dicey because you have classified material, you have the Justice Department, which is new and which they haven't worked with before, and you have an administration that they could be fighting against. So, I mean, I guess that's part of the many questions that we'll be answering when that thing comes to pass.
And Mark, what does Congress do about the president's allegations last weekend that President Obama wiretapped the offices of the Trump Tower? Does the White House want this to go away, or does this have legs? Are we going to see more on this in the coming weeks?
Well, I think the Democrats would like to sort of keep this in the news. I mean, it was sort of a baffling, it was 1 week ago today. I mean, that's the thing about this administration. It feels like it was like 3 months ago, but it was really only 1 week ago that this was dominating discussion. It does seem like, if not, they have not backed off a little bit. They certainly have maybe walked this back a little bit. President Trump has not talked very much about it since then. And it's an uncomfortable position because, apparently the FBI and James Comey specifically has said that there's nothing to this, and he supposedly asked the Justice Department to sort of refute what the White House says, which creates a very awkward situation. But I do think that the put up and shut up moment could be very embarrassing to the White House, and I think that's why Democrats have tried to press the issue a little bit.
All right, Mark Leibovich in Washington. Mark, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Anthony.